Hi. I was just watching YouTube. What's up? I was thinking about trying to throw something on in the background while I draw. I'm already I'm still on this fan art kick. And someone requested Morrigan from Darkstalkers, and I've drawn her in the past. I do always like that character. I think she's pretty cool. I just think she's neat. That's all I got to say. I'm gonna have to mess with this. So I'm already a little bit in. I got like the anatomy on her face is looking pretty good, the angle. And then, you can check by looking at this thumbnail. That's like stepping away from the canvas when you're painting. And you can see her head's maybe a little too big. And also her whole pose is like completely ridiculous. So I am gonna mess with that. Sometimes if you simplify it, like her whole body could be from the same angle, which means I would delete all of this, which you might do. Norman says, that's hot. Well, Morgan's hot no matter what. She's a sweet character. Uh, and I don't know, there's funny things like we did enter an age because I specifically remember as a kid never thinking twice about the quote unquote sexual characters, like either in X-Men or Darkstalkers or Capcom or whatever, like Chung Li's thighs or Morrigan, but specifically Rogue. I think I maybe knew that she was like hot. Maybe I knew that, but it didn't cross my mind like at all when I was a kid. And then I wonder if it crosses kids today's mind or not, because it does cross my mind as an adult. Like but that's what people always comment when they look at the art. They're like, it's like practically porn. I can't believe kids read this X-Men. And they say that today even. And I'm like, that's stupid. And I remember it's not like that. Like, it's just kind of, part of the fun is like the strong men and hot women. But as adults, it's like impossible to see it in an innocent way. So it's funny. It's almost like creating media for kids. If you get in the mindset of a kid, it does enable you to draw hotter women, kind of. Because if you stay in the mindset of an adult trying to do stuff for kids, then you're like, oh, I shouldn't draw hot girls because that's inappropriate. But it's like that never crosses kids' minds anyway. Um, Norman, so most of that stuff went over my head. I always thought it was cool. Yeah, yeah. So I don't even know. I don't even know. William Dublin, Darkstalker, Samurai Shodown were two of my favorite games. So one random thing, I'm gonna try and talk and draw for a little bit. Let me hold on. Let me get a sip of coffee here. Um, Drawing the 3D shape of her bangs is like kind of hard. That I sort of got right. Like here's like the front rim. So it's almost like you're drawing like this, golfer's hat, but then you draw in so it ends up looking pretty good if you do that. Um, yeah. So, dude, though, I fell down a rabbit hole of watching YouTube videos about TM, Transcendental Meditation. You guys heard of this? You guys seen this? I'm going to test doing her whole body from a different. The other thing is you got your sternum, the boobs pop out from there. Looking down. So this is looking down, like shoulders. See, it's much more simple. The rib cage goes a little under the boobs. The boobs like rest on the bottom of the rib cage, kind of like there's the rib cage. Not that anatomy needs to be super accurate, but the other one is this. Is it like called the clavicle? I forget this bone. Those always. I've been learning a little bit just from actually looking at reference. Is really good practice. Like I learned about like there's these a lot of anime draws like they draw this dip here, they draw these tendons, the clavicles, and then there's actually like a straight plane before the boops start right here. And if it's too sharp, they kind of can look fake, but you can soften that out a little bit or whatever. So either that or this. I mean, that up angle's cool, but it didn't match her head. And her head, it's like that pose would have been too unrealistic. 10 people drawing. Diller draws. Meditation, dabbling in witchcraft? I feel like I almost did your voice, Dillard. Meditation. Meditation. Dabbling in witchcraft, brother? Nordenrat says David Lynch was into that. Yeah, David Lynch and Jerry Seinfeld are the two most famous celebrities. Anytime celebrities get into that stuff, it reminds me of Scientology. I'm like, how much more? And then I did search. I'm like, is TM a cult? And there's a clip that comes up of Joe Rogan with Tom Papa, who I forget who Tom Papa is. He's some guy, and he does TM, and he said he learned it from Jerry Seinfeld. And he's like, no, it's not a cult, man. See, like with cults, like it's not even like a thing that like I don't even know where people go. Like, do people go to meet up? To be a cult, you'd have to like go somewhere. I don't even know where people go, which is a very good point, except it's wrong because there is a place you go for TM, and it's like this one city in Iowa where everyone there does TM, and that is a cult. But so I think if you could answer the question is like, it could be like a spectrum, I guess. Like is even like potentially even like Christianity's like that where it's all normal, but you have these little pockets where it gets weird. And that's more the community than it is like the religion or the belief or whatever. So that's kind of in TM's sort of defense, but it's like that is a cult. I'm sure about that. And because I lived in Iowa for a bit, I remember hearing about that city. And I think that, David Lynch and Jerry like go to that city and hang out there once a year. So that they know about that shit and they're kind of involved in it. And there is some like money stuff like Scientology. Like sometimes it's like, is this a tax evasion thing? So there might be some of that going on. There is like, yeah, like you pay money to kind of rise up the ranks. That's like sketchy. But again, like even Christianity sort of does that. Scientology definitely does it. I love Christianity, by the way, but just it's like these things, if you hold it up under that magnifying glass, there's like similarities or whatever. But so the other thing they say about TM, it's funny, Jerry Seinfeld has a pitch for it, and he's like, a genius comedian, so his pitch is really good. And then David Lynch has a pitch, and his pitch is like so different. Question, should I zoom this out so we can see her hands? I will zoom it out just a little bit. But then it kind of doesn't look as cool. It looked cool kind of close up. What if we do, what if she's like touching her chest? Let's draw a freaking hand, bro. Where does the thumb go if you turn it away? So Jerry Seinfeld's pitch, it kind of tucks under the boob. Girls, if they have big boobs, their arm can like hook under it, sneak in there. The other thing is you got to remember the wrist though. Or like you remember this part. Here's a quick hand thing is here's the wrist. The hand is like if you draw a square like that, and then that always looks good. A lot of times people do this, and that always looks bad. But if you just move this up a little bit, dude, I don't know why, but that looks good. But Jerry Seinfeld, he said TM is for purposes of rest and recharging your brain during the course of the day. You're supposed to do 2 20-minute meditations. And he said it got him a lot of advantageous kind of stuff for his career. It really helped him. And That's about it. Like for him, it's like functional, just resting. And he says sleeping actually isn't that restful as we think. He's like, just look at yourself in the mirror when you get out of bed. It's like been a war all night. And if you watch people sleep like sped up in film, then you can see them tossing and turning. So the idea is as soon as you wake up, then you do 20-minute TM. And then, and so anyway, his pitch was like pretty good, like whatever, like effective. And then David Lynch's pitch was hilarious because they're just so different. David Lynch's, so Jerry Seinfeld, like it's like recharging your gas on a long trip, it's like this is an energy maintenance kind of thing. And David Lynch is like, you connect with the great beyond. And it's like, okay. So David Lynch is way more into that part of it, I guess. But so then I was like, well, shit, I'll test it. But the thing too about TM is, and I've dabbled in meditation here and there in the past. And I do remember, because I actually lived behind a Buddhist cult, like, because I revisited that too. I Googled them. And it's like, yeah, this is kind of a thing about that kind of thing is they have a lot of people with bad experiences. They all call it a cult. And there's still people who will join it because it's like, well, which is like good, I think. Like, I don't think getting called a cult should be a deal breaker because it's kind of like if you go into a cult and have a bad experience and then kind of call it a cult as you leave, that's a little bit on you. There's a lot of people who can go into a cult and have a good experience because you just bring you're bringing yourself wherever you go, there you are, that kind of thing. But nevertheless, it's like cults are a little bit more sketchy or whatever. And there's this one Buddhist cult. It is like sketchy. It's a little weird to even call it Buddhist per se, but it's called Diamond Way. You can look it up, but it's started by this white German guy. And I one of my buddies from college was into it, and it's not like again, it's actually not that bad, except I think it is like objectively, you can almost like just say it's a cult or whatever. But he went to it, and I moved to Austin after college, lived with him for a little bit, and he was living behind it, not in the actual center, but it was this center. It had the prayer room and all that kind of stuff. And I did a few meditations with them. And I remember even then, I think that was my first time meditating, and that was a little more hardcore guided meditation with like going like, oh, like that kind of shit or whatever. But I remember thinking like, oh, that was like a cup of coffee without actually drinking a cup of coffee. I remember thinking that. And so I've tried it here and there, always thinking that like, oh yeah, but you kind of fall out of it. And then with this TM thing, I'm like, well, they say all you do is sit there and rest your brain. I'm like pretty good at that. And I know what it feels like. Like when you rest your brain, it's like there's actually kind of a feeling that of your brain like relaxing. And I like that. And so I tried it that day. I was like, shit, I paused Jerry Seinfeld. I'm like, I'm gonna sit for 20 minutes. And sure enough, you get that coffee thing, but I didn't notice too much difference. But then I did this morning, yesterday and today, and I do notice a little difference. So I'm like, shit, I might keep doing this just for the shits and gigs. But the problem is that TM, supposedly you're supposed to be taught it and you have to, I think, pay money to be taught it. And the main part of teaching it is they give you I forget what it's called, your like little word that you're supposed to chant. Everyone has an individual word and you can't tell anyone what your word is. So that part is like, so they say you just sit there and relax your brain. It's very beneficial, but you have to pay us thousands of dollars to learn your word first. And then they're like, and that gives you what, like the answer to the great beyond, the secret underwear. It's like that level of Mormonism is structured that way. I talked to the Mormon dudes a lot a few years ago. Mormonism is actually cool too, and like everyone in the church is cool, but they do this thing where they kind of get you with the sunk cost fallacy where they're like, hey, it's all great, we're just do it, and then they're like, okay, now it's time, after you're like a year into it, they're like, now it's time for you to learn about the secret underwear and blah blah blah. And there's like, I think there's a temple that you can only go to if you're wearing the secret underwear, that kind of stuff. Like, but that's like leveling up kind of medium high, and at that point, to even be on that level, you do have to like pay into the church. But even Christians pay into the church. That's not that big a deal. But that is one of the things that kind of stops me sometimes when I get recruited by these people. I'm like, is there an option where I don't have to give you guys any money? And they're always like, yeah, sure, yeah, yeah. But then of course they eventually want money, and I'm like, I asked you when we started this. And yeah, so TM, that was the thing that like almost weirds me out. I'm like, what is the secret or whatever? Like, so anyway, I think I'm just gonna invent my own and just say it's like TM, but you don't pay any money and it's just me, and you don't learn your secret chant word or whatever, and you just kind of sit there. But they say like again, like Jerry Seinfeld being great at pitching it, and kind of like pitching meditation in general. And I'd be curious. I wish he would. I'd like to hear him like address it or whatever, or address like those concerns about what it is. Shoot, I'm not drawing. It's hard to draw and talk at the same time. That looks wonky, but that actually is pretty close to the gesture. So whatever. And there's that. And then what her thing is, she's got the high leotards. You go all the way up there. And then low cut here. And then feathers. Try and actually draw the feathers maybe. And then what? She's got freaking. Drawing these kind of in 3D is a little weird too. One's coming that way, one's going that way. And then, oh, I guess I drew this wrong. That's funny. This connects to this. And then where it goes in the back, I don't know. She's got more wings down here off of her like tail. Now I think even from this angle, we're looking down at her hips would have to get dragged down a little bit, because we're actually not that, it's not that foreshortened. It's like more like that. If I look at the thumbnail, it looks a little bit wrong still. Try that. That looks potentially a little bit. All right. She having a heart attack, not a long ass nipple. I want to know what's going on with the bulb. Oh yeah, the bulb. um. Okay, so the perspective is like we can try it. Here's her shoulder line. It's not contrapposto. That would be like one shoulder raised, which usually is almost always good to do. This is kind of flat. So let's adjust that. So if that's if she brings this shoulder forward. The bob. I just wanted to have the big bob. I don't know. It's not. I noticed like so. This is Bengus here. I'm pretty sure, or that's at least Bengus style. But I think that's Bengus. His thing is he has perfect drawings, and I'm like, I could almost draw that. Like forget like the awesome rendering and the line quality, but just the drawing. Like I could almost do that, but I never quite. And you know when you get it is when it like really starts to look good for some reason. Um, it's like it looks pretty good, honestly, from like here up. All looks good. From here down looks bad though. So what is wrong with it? I think she does need because it's not really that you're like that. If the hip goes. Maybe like that. And put her arm forward, arm back. Whatever. Let's try. Oh, it's still, I don't particularly. Maybe it's like that. Getting the leotard way higher. All right, let's try cleaning it up and see what we're looking at here. A little thinner. Try this line. Bob. We'll do the feathers later. And I almost like the lines from. We'll try and go over them, I guess. It's got big ears. What is the origin of the word boob? The B is the aerial view. The ooh is the front view. And the lower B is the side view. Nice. Never forget, Morrigan fucked Ken and Spider-Man. Nice. She's for the streets. JK. Hands a little small, but sometimes small hands are cool. That actually kind of looks more. A little more booty shank. Some of these lines are, you want the lines to follow the form. Like that looks better for some reason, because that'll be kind of lit up. Like the lines can sort of match the lighting a little bit. That's kind of hard to explain. Boom. That looks way better. And that gesture looks great, but yeah, it looks weird if you look at the actual hand. But that's like, it's like this kind of thing, like the claw, the boob claw. You ever claw your own boob? That's how you do it. Ever since Scientology lost Hollywood, movies have sucked. That's funny. Dude, movies do suck right now. It's weird. Like even there was like a movie that looked kind of good. It was called The Creator. Came out like a few weeks ago. And I just saw the little what's it called? The review from Critical Drinker. And he's like, he actually, he said it was okay, even that movie. But he's like, yes, it's one of those movies. It has the girl, the little girl who's the key to everything. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, man, F this movie, dog. I have low tolerance for cliches like that. And one of the problems is what's kind of become a cliche is the hero's journey in general. Movies weren't meant to be the hero's journey, I don't think. Like, I think the hero's journey is overrated. I said it. There you heard it. I was trying to think like what is like the type of stories that cinema is most supposed to tell. And it's like, I don't think it's supposed to tell like hero's journey. I don't even know. That's like maybe novels, but cinema is supposed to tell more weird stuff kind of. I forget. I sort of had an answer to it. Now I kind of forget. One thing though, cinema is supposed to do is it's supposed to give you a glimpse into a part of the world that you're normally unfamiliar with that feels kind of like privileged information or like a secret, like very privileged. So like if there was like there's that one movie about the drummer who like dedicates his life to being a good drummer. I actually haven't seen it, but everyone says it's very inspiring and they love it. And that maybe you could say that I don't even know, maybe it does fit the hero's journey. But that, for example, is a glimpse into some privileged like an interesting kind of thing. Like movies are supposed to be interesting. They're not supposed to like be like, here's this guy, he's afraid of snakes, and I'm going to send him on a quest where he's going to inevitably have to confront snakes, even though that happened in Indiana Jones. But that wasn't the point of the story. It's funny, like if you make that the point, it becomes retarded. Their hero's journey, going to the shops during the school run. George Lucas might differ with you there. I wonder. I bet he might a little bit recognize like the monster he created. He's probably sick of it too. Holy hand grenades. No, ever since the Weinstein incident, dude kept shit running. The whole Me Too thing might have been a little bit of what did it. It was actually some of it is like the woke stuff. And I was trying to think of how you'd pitch that to someone who's like, what even is wokeness? And you're like, well, it's like equity. Well, it's like, for one, it's political correctness, but then it's like this far left kind of concepts like equity and kind of stepping away from meritocracy. And that is a big thing of what's happening is to get the equity, they end up uh, making a ton of girl bosses. And that can cause problems because the girl bosses, they're only there because they like equity in the first place too. Otherwise, they would like have a serious kind of cognitive dissonance about it. What about character studies like Singles or LA Story? Those style of movies went away. Yeah. See, that would be, put that on the list. Anything but heroes, anything but like Johnny's scared of snakes. So he's going to go on a quest that inevitably makes him confront his fear of snakes. At the end of the story, guess what? He's not afraid of snakes anymore. That's like that we maybe no more of those ever for the history. And for like 100 years. We need to put a pause on it. Just tell some weird fun stories. Tell some fun stories. That's one kind of big difference between the 70s and the 80s, which is a little bit separated by Star Wars. But the 80s does have a fair amount of hero's journey type stuff. 70s does not that much. Everything, they're just spinning yarns. They're just telling stories and a lot of those classics. Although, and then, whatever. I can try and argue with myself. I think the Godfather, funnily enough, does have sort of a hero's journey, but it's like inverted, which is kind of interesting. Instead of, it's sort of just like him. It has a character arc. Character arcs are probably fine. I don't know. I'm like, how does manga do it? What do they, I don't feel like they like play plug and play with the hero's journey as much. They just do. They do embrace character arcs. The one of their cliches that I actually love is they have where the bad guy and the good guy slowly become friends and then have to team up against the even worse bad guy. Like that is like so fun. Never gets old. Maybe it would get old if they did it for 30 years straight and that's all they did. William Noblin, 70s seem more pulp inspired to me. Violence, gore, etc. Skull Eater. Indy's already in his prime from the beginning. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's funny. Like, that is a thing where there's, I'm not the only one to say this, but I call them legendary characters like Batman, Superman, where they actually can't learn lessons because if they learn lessons, it sort of weakens them. Like their whole point is they freaking know what's up. They know they're like a rock. They know exactly what their deal is. And then other characters bounce off them and other characters will change because of them, but they do not change. And they can change maybe a little bit. Like they can like become friends with someone they originally didn't like or something like that. Someone can earn their respect. So they're like, but still that's almost the other person changing a little bit. Enemy Mine, did you see that one? Premise of enemies working together. No, I know that's an 80s one. It looks pretty good. Hero's Journey, Kaneda and Akira. That'd be interesting to look at Akira. I'm trying to say, I feel like that's interesting. My first instinct is that is a stretch. I'm trying to remember. Like he almost, I don't know what his like, what does he learn? They have he kind of has to say goodbye to his buddy. That's like I watched a 70s movie a few days ago called The Long Goodbye. And your boy Zach went through a phase where he was, for some reason, really into The Long Goodbye. And I think this was like 2 years ago. And he was mentioning it on multiple videos while he's watching. It's because he only watches 20 minutes at a time because he's got ADD. And I think he watches on his phone even. So it took him like a week to watch the movie. And that one thing, though, is like that's not even a bad thing necessarily. As long as if you can watch, like good for you, because some people won't even do that because it's an old 70s movie. It's like a little slow. But I did manage to watch it. I find sometimes those slow movies like just refreshing and fun. Got to kind of be in the mood, but I watched it all in one sitting the other night for the first time. And it's really great. And it's like, yeah, it's not the hero's journey at all. But that one is Shaggy Dog, which is its own weird thing. And that's what your boy Zach identified it as that as well, and was talking about that during those streams. And it's not even the thing is Shaggy Dog is not a negative thing. It's a little postmodern, and it's almost like a pretty positive thing. I think like in almost every context I think of it, like Norm Macdonald is famous for telling Shaggy Dog jokes, and he's considered by many the greatest comedian of all time. So like Shaggy Dog's stuff is like kind of awesome. But The Long Goodbye is very Shaggy Dog, and it's a lot of fun for that reason too. Because one of the things Shaggy Dog would do is it'll make a story unpredictable because it's for one thing you're kind of stepping outside of that hero's journey where shit is predictable in the hero's journey, but in Shaggy Dog, at any point you could be watching something that has nothing to do with the story, like it just is showing you stuff kind of sort of randomly, and you might be like, well, that's inefficient. It's like, well, this is the story. We're like showing you the world. It's kind of realistic. Random shit's happening. We're showing you that. But because those are the rules you pick up on, then you don't really know what's going to happen, kind of. And there is a little bit of a mystery, but it's funny. It's like even in The Long Goodbye, there's sort of a mystery where his friend gets accused of murder and then supposedly kills himself in Mexico. And he's pretty sure his friend didn't kill himself. He's like, that's bullshit. He would never do that. And so you're like, oh, he's going to like investigate. It's like, nope, he just gets another job. He's a private investigator. So he got another job. So he starts working on that job and he just does that for a while. You totally forget about the whole point of the movie. And then he talks a little bit with that client about, because she knew the guy too. And then things kind of tie together a little bit, but not even that much. But it's pretty nice. Actually, it's pretty fun. But what I was going to say is The Long Goodbye is kind of cool because the title is what it is. And again, it's funny. It's like, it's kind of barely there, but it's saying goodbye to a friend, having a falling out, but it's a very slow falling out, and then saying goodbye. And like truly saying goodbye, which you'll have to watch the movie to see what it is. But that's like what Akira is like too. It's like The Long Goodbye. That's kind of a theme that you could run with. Anyone not familiar with Norm, there is a channel named I'm Not Norm. It's great. Yeah, I was just watching some of that. And you know what funny thing about Norm Macdonald too? He did that podcast for a while on YouTube, and then it for a while it went to Netflix. And I remember thinking the Netflix one wasn't as good, and I think it sort of quickly got canceled because he got canceled for some BS or whatever, and he had to apologize. I felt so sorry for him. And he had cancer at the time, I'm pretty sure. He was writing his novel, which I want to read. I guarantee you it's good. Um, in fact, I might buy it today. But what? So that YouTube version of that podcast, it is like one of the best things I've ever seen. Like I don't know how many. There's like 20 of them or something. Like all 20. It's like you should watch Star Trek the original series. There's some things, watch some Columbo. Like if I give like advice to like a young me of like what you should watch to build a base for like taste or whatever, even I don't know what the word for inspiration kind of. It's like watch all of the Norm interviews on YouTube for that podcast that he did for like 20 episodes. There's one with Jerry Seinfeld. It's great. The thing is they're all great. And Norm's so funny in them. He's like constantly semi roasting his guests kind of, or not roasting. like semi trolling them, but like it's just it's kind of subtle, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Billy Bob says Columbo's fantastic. LMAO, yeah, that podcast was great. He got canceled because he chose to defend his friend Roseanne. Yeah, she was on the podcast and she was good too. Have you seen Lady in the Lake? It's a Philip Marlowe movie told entirely from the first person. No, I will watch that. That sounds awesome. And it's funny that first person, we were talking about that on um on Creative Block, some point of view stuff. The true mystery thing, it has to be from one point of view. Like you can't do the suspense God thing if you want the actual mystery. Like Columbo, you get the God's eye perspective, you know who the bad guy is, but then there's no mystery, but there is dramatic irony. But if you want actual mystery, you have to stay with one person. So it actually is fun. It's like one of the only genres where it does make perfect sense to do it in first person. And it's cool that they did that. Like it makes perfect sense. Hendon Schneider says Big Fish is both Shaggy Dog and Hero's Journey. Yeah. Yeah, the one of the emotions I like, I don't know if counts as emotion, but in a story, it's when you go, I had no idea that this was going that direction or that this was going to happen, but it makes perfect sense in hindsight. And that's not even like a twist. Like a twist you would kind of know or whatever. But like I'm trying to think of an example. Like, I don't know. Like the one for an idea that I was thinking about is with I've talked about it before on a stream where you have the captain. Wow. You have like the undercover boss guy, and then the recruits coming in, and then there's two oracles. One oracle tells the recruit like the captain um is gonna maybe he even would tell him like he's gonna go undercover boss because he knows you're coming, so watch out, but you got to go kill him. And then the captain gets his oracle. It says one of the recruits is coming to kill you, so go undercover boss. And then he runs this flying ship, and then so that kind of the story starts, and the they're both undercover. They might start being friends. What happens? um, Either a battle or something, but their ship crash lands on an island and they have to kind of build huts and hunt for food and survive. And so that becomes the story. And then that more perfectly fits with that undercover kind of weird bonding thing you could do, which is kind of like dramatic irony a little bit. But that's why it would sort of make sense in hindsight. But there's no way that you would do a setup and payoff for it. It just randomly happens, but then it does kind of make sense because it lets you explore the theme even more. And I don't know if the theme's even the right word, but like the whole point of the story. I'm skeptical of theme a little bit. I can get down, but I usually I do think you can think of it in terms of like the point though. But movies, yeah, if you go in the 70s, it's like they'll have a point, and a lot of times it's like a snapshot. It's a little more like movies are more about moments. That's one thing I was gonna say. Um, so sometimes they're not even about the story. They're about the moment. Like how good of a moment can they build to? And that's kind of like a cinematic thing. Whereas like novels are more about story or whatever. It's an interesting shift in priorities. Because to build to a moment, for one, it's like also scenes. Movies are about scenes. You need a great scene, you need a great moment. Scenes are the thing about moment is it is like if you say momentary, but like a protracted, charged moment that lasts, like this pumped up kind of thing. Like, but basically like a scene. That's like I think Tarantino's definitely from like that school of he's uh more into what cinema can do rather than like quote unquote the story. And he'll end up telling stories, but it's not like about that really. Like even Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's like, what the f is that story? But or like what is like the point too? So instead of theme of just like what's the point? What's he even trying to do? And I don't know. it is like to build these awesome moments and scenes is like for him almost that's the point. And characters and stuff. But cinema can do that pretty good. And the 70s did it all the time. And I said this on another stream, but 70s and 80s, my generation and a lot of CG, we all love the 80s. But we were the thing, and then Tarantino says the 70s were the best and the 80s kind of sucked. So we're all like, what? How do you like fit that? Like, you disagree with Tarantino or whatever? And I'm like, I kind of see where he's coming from because we do like the 80s, but all the movies we like are the best movies of the 80s. And there were actually a lot that weren't that great. And then in the 70s, it actually was almost like you can actually randomly pick movies and they're all pretty great. So that's kind of what I've been doing if I'm looking for something to watch. I've been just kind of going back to the 70s a little bit. Another like kind of like riddle to solve. This is another sort of interesting thing is it's what Tarantino doesn't like Kubrick, which I don't understand because I think they actually have a lot in common. And I'm wondering if almost that's why he doesn't like him. Because I think Kubrick was like that too. Kubrick was not interested in the story per se. He was more interested in like scenes and moments. Hitchcock was a little bit like that too. More interested in the scene in the moments and the scenes rather than the story or the overall package. And Tarantino doesn't like Hitchcock either. So it's like he doesn't like the people that were the closest to him, although he's obviously influenced by De Palma, who was influenced by Hitchcock. And he does like De Palma. And I've been watching, I need to watch a little more. There's still a few De Palmas I haven't seen, maybe, but I do really like him too. But I really like Kubrick. And he does like these 2.5 hour, 3 hour movies, and they're like not boring. I'm like, how does he do it? They're like a little hypnotic. The Shining is like a great example. It's 2.5 hours long, but it's like it feels so fun just to be in that world. And I don't know if he does it. I don't know what that's one thing I don't know. Like I don't know exactly how Kubrick does that. How does he make these long movies that are kind of hypnotic and fun and they're like not boring. They're the least boring, but it's not like they're packed with shit. They're kind of slower paced, but they're not like slow paced. It's maybe it's a little bit of it is like the word hypnotic, you could almost say like um but one thing I know Spielberg was talking about uh Kubrick, and he said Kubrick gave him some great advice from time to time about movies. And he said one thing Kubrick would do is he would say, well, gee, that sounds pretty boring. What are you going to do to make it a little more interesting for you? What do you find about it that's interesting? And I think he didn't say what they're talking about, but to me, I picture Spielberg like pitches him his new project, which is a hero's journey project. Kubrick goes, "That's boring. What's interesting about it?" And then Spielberg has to go, "Well, I don't know. I really want to do this like suspense sequence right in the middle, or something like that, you know." And that's like how I picture Kubrick's kind of mind working. I know for a fact that's how Hitchcock worked. I know he would make just because I read a book, this long interview with him, but he would pick movie projects solely based on one scene that he was excited about doing. And it's funny too. From his day coming up, the writers they didn't call them script writers; they called them scenario writers. Which that's a little bit shift in priorities too with movies via like versus novels or whatever, telling a story, blah 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 in movies calling it a scenario. What's the scenario? Like the scenario is like it kind of zooms in, it zones in. You're already moving towards that scenes and moments kind of perspective rather than this big broad thing. Richard Cahill, you got to go back to the 20s, the true era of cinematic experimentation. Gluminati. Woo, he's doing it. Oh, Gluminati, you were the one who suggested. Yeah, totally. Hitchcock Rear Window, a Voyeur's movie. Would Jurassic Park have been Jurassic Park without the story to back it up? Rule of Cool alone can lead to vacuous, empty candy floss films. Yeah, I agree with that. And I don't know, Jurassic Park, I think it doesn't fit the super annoying hero's journey structure, which is good. It's a little more 70s, and it's written by the dude who kind of came up in the 70s, that famous writer. I forget his name. But yeah, when I was a kid, I thought that Simply Green of like, I would think like, man, these robot movies are dumb because there's only robots for like 1 minute of like the 2 hour movie. And I didn't really even know at the time, but that's sort of almost like a budget thing, I guess. But I'm like, that's so stupid. They should make a movie where it's all robots fighting and nothing but that for 2 hours. I used to think that as a kid. And I kind of realized as you grow up, you're like, well, if they did that, and you might be able to think of examples where they have tried that now because they almost can with, and they've almost got dumb enough or whatever. But the thing is, it is boring. It's stupid. Um, but there are ways where you could do a 2 hour action scene, but there's weird things about that too. Like the Raid Redemption is almost like that, but it has the ebbs and flows and the build, and it has like the pacing kind of stuff and some character stuff. And but yeah, I kind of want to rewatch that actually. That's a really fun movie. That's an example though of like movies versus everything else. A lot of times it is like F the story, bro. Like who gives a shit about the story? It has to make sense, and you gotta have a story, but you're more like, yeah, like you gotta get into these moments. And they aren't, it doesn't mean like badass action, but it could. But it could mean like badass suspense, badass mystery, badass paranoia. I do kind of think it ties back to the interactivity thing, those basics of what kind of becomes fun, or like psychological. This is another one that they did it better back in the day, but people used to make movies sometimes just to explore one psychological like aspect of like some shit or whatever. And I'm trying to think what an example might be. Like there's a movie called Beau Brummel, which is about a guy who became friends with a king. I forget which king, like whatever, one of the English kings, I think, like Henry the whatever, fifth or whatever, and or 15th. And that king in this story, I don't know if historically this might be true. He was like kind of a lovable, nice guy, but he was kind of dumb. And then this genius dude ends up befriending him, and they have this really nice friendship. But the genius dude is like trying to teach him and like give him some ideas of some ways to modernize the country a little bit or whatever. Modernize back in the day where nowadays modernizing is pretty stupid, but back then it might have been cool. I'm skeptical of it now, even then, maybe it was dumb, um, but yeah, being kind of progressive in the 1500s version of progressive, which is probably ahead of his time and still like kind of legit or whatever. But so they become great friends, but it's this interesting dynamic where the actual powerful one is inferior to the not powerful one, who is who's like kind of the alpha or whatever, more like, you know, whatever, tall and handsome and shit. So then he has these rivals in the court who get really jealous and they don't like the changes he's making. So they start worm tonguing the king, and they do end up turning the king against his best friend. And but his best friend was kind of manipulating him, but he kind of wasn't. And he's like heartbroken. They have this big falling out and they never talk again. And then there's a little bit more to the story, but like that's like very emotional and awesome. But it's kind of this like psychological thing. That's what gets you excited. That's what you take a look at. Is like, I want to look at this idea of the two friends and the power differences and the jealousy and paranoia that can come up from that or whatever. Is like, that's pretty legit. Novels can do that too. But for a novel, it might be like a section of the novel. I don't know. Movies, it would almost be like the whole point of the movie is to, and you spend 2 hours kind of exploring it and stuff. Art on Times J. Ryan says, I got worm tongued once. Happens to the best of us. I was watching that city chase scene from the latest one, makes the dinos look comical. Yeah, I know. The first one is so much better compared to all the new ones. It's such a classic. Hinted, it was a good old disaster movie. Yeah, that's the structure. You're right. Perfect. You know something too? I might have said this before in a stream, but it was during the lockdowns, right when shit was just getting started. So I don't know if it was 2019 or 2020 or whatever. The theaters were open for a while and they would eventually close, but there was like a 2 month kind of weird overlap in the Venn diagram where they were open, but there are actually no new movies because Hollywood had already shut down, movies had shut down, but the theaters were still open. So there were no movies to play. So they played, they could play anything they want. They had to play old movies. And they picked like, I don't know how they decided or if it was a bunch of different ones, but they brought back Jurassic Park. And so for that, for about a month, for like 2 or 3 weekends in a row, Jurassic Park, 30 years after its release or whatever, was the #1 movie in America in the box office. And I think you could still look that up if you find like the box office stats of like weekly who won. Jurassic Park won in like for like a month in 2019 or something, which is funny. And it just goes to show you it's a classic. And it's like it is timeless. Vaughn's here. What's up, Vaughn? I see it as taking interesting characters and having the conflict with each other in interesting ways and let that lead the story. Yeah, that's cool. I've heard the one guy everyone loves that I do kind of like too, who he wrote what The Social Network and stuff. I don't know. He writes good dialogue supposedly. Anyway, he said it's all about um what the goal and then the obstacle. And obviously that's so simple, but that's like you get good stuff if you do it that way. The one thing I've heard and that's good to add to it is like always adding the inverse or thinking about the inverses. It's like the quantum stuff of like at any point your story is going these possible different directions. The audience is tracking that a little bit and you can pump those up too. And that's what we call like the stakes. So it's like, what happens if they fail? That question, it's good if the audience knows the answer to that. So that creates the stakes. So, oh, if they fail, they die. Well, that's good to know. That adds the stakes. Where if you don't know that, then you're kind of like, okay. That actually, I think that was one thing that plot holes did wrong, if I remember correctly. He never described what happens if they fail. That 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 it didn't make. I don't know. I think I'm trying to think. Maybe by the end, you're like, okay, if they fail, the whole program deletes, and I guess their existence ends. Maybe I kind of forget, but Vaughn says, I saw it in Chicago. Oh, dude, nice. In 2019 or whatever. Sorkin also, yeah, you guys talking about Sorkin. He wrote The West Wing. Nobody says, good writer, shit director. Yeah, I haven't seen the ones he directed. He did one about a poker game. It's like machine gun dialogue. Create good characters and they may just start interacting with their own accord in your head. Yeah, that's kind of what Tarantino says he does too. I was wondering, like, I still, kind of think about what the hell, how Tarantino does what he does. And there's a thing, I was thinking about Pulp Fiction. So, Pulp Fiction, for the famous conversation when they're in the car talking about the travels and they're talking about what the quarter, what do they call it? Anyway, the quarter pounder, the Royale with cheese. That whole scene is awesome. And there's like some shit he's doing there even. But I think the main thing is it's like funny because it's kind of simple, but it is you wonder what the hell they're doing because there are these two cool looking dudes chatting about some kind of weird shit. They're driving somewhere. You're wondering where they're driving. So that question, you're listening, and that's kind of keeping your interest. But if there was actually just two people literally just catching up in semi clever dialogue, because that dialogue isn't even like clever in the way like if it's clever, that can almost be like a bad thing. It's more like you're trying to be a little more real, not trigger the audience being like, oh, that was clever. But yeah, it would get boring if there's not something else going on. But having two characters going somewhere while they're talking, kind of wondering where they're going. And from the point where they grab the shotguns and then continue, that's the unfolding where he's revealing information to you. From that point, especially, you're not bored at all. So he can go for like a certain period of time where it's just the very light touch of intrigue of where are they going. But that you can't go for too long with that. And then once they grab guns, you're like, oh shit. Then you can go like quite a bit longer if you wanted to. And he does drag it out a little bit. Like he does it as a joke actually, in Pulp Fiction, where they actually get to the door and he goes, "It's a little early. Let's keep going." And they walk back down the hall and keep talking. That's funny because I do think he knows that he's got you because you need to see what's going to happen. So you're not. It's like a tease, and teasing is awesome in storytelling. Bancroft. Nope, it was Molly's game. Rounders is totally fake fun portrayal of poker. Molly's game, on the other hand, is a very accurate depiction of the world of underground games. Oh yeah, not Rounders, but Molly's game. Yeah, yeah. Bancroft, did you like that one? I haven't seen it. But yeah. All right, I'm gonna try and draw some more. What should we do? I guess we could draw in the rest of the details. I'll do it on another layers. Um, could try and how low cut should her? I am. This boob needs to be bigger. Maybe make it bigger. How is this gesture? This looks a little bit weird. Maybe if I shorten it just a little bit. Very foreshortened. Crap, I'm working on this separate layers still. I need to flatten. Go back. No. Might have been okay that first way. Oops. Too far. Okay. What else? Then we can sort of see if this deletes any. Sure. Merge. No going back now. These boys. I'll be right back. I'm gonna get a little more cough. Oof. Bancroft says, yeah, it's great. Nice. Now the question is, should I try? I could try some hatching. I mean, it does look cool a lot of times, but see, it kind of looks like she's just got a black eye. Old me would just flat this, throw some lighting. It looks like an animation frame, but it would look good. I could try and flat it with airbrush too. It gives it kind of a 3D feel. I think that would look good and maybe get the most But people respond to like detail too. They like detail, so the hatching can sort of feel good. But I don't know where. The thing about hatching too is it's kind of like you got to power through because it looks kind of bad at one point. You just keep going. I kind of switched her lighting a little bit. Well, that's like her. J Bob, going to clean it up or leave it loose? Well, I got the. I'm kind of experimenting with hatching right now, which I'm not the greatest at. And yeah, so but I got an idea to. I wonder if I think that's more where her. I don't know. All right. See, I kind of like this better. But then the hatching, I just kind of overdid it. So maybe you can, yeah, like that already looks better. Delete some of it. That's way digital cheating, kind of, but so I'll leave those on another layer just in case I want to try and. But I want to. Working so far. It all closed up nicely. Now there is a thing I'm seeing is boop, 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 boop. I think I do want to change this. Well, what was like that's more like Wait, that would be like her arm, I think. Perp. Gotta look at the reference again, I guess. Oh, this is not skin. Even pull these colors. And this is like dark. Yeah. Got some jumbles in here. All right, I think that's I think I will make this hip bigger, this hip line. Like that almost. She's got some interesting colors. Isn't anything. She has bats on her leotards, but Don't the common American people have some weird deal with Street Fighter variants? Maybe. They're the dude who runs Udon Entertainment, they're like the publishing company that has the Street Fighter rights and a lot of the Capcom rights. I think they're like a Canadian company. I forget that guy's name. It might be start with a Matt something. But he, even from way back in the day, he was not into the woke stuff, even in 2016. And I don't know if he got canceled or what he did exactly, but he was never really CG. He just kind of did his own thing. Faces nice Morrigan. Thanks. By the way, everyone, I think you guys know, but Hotel Story. Woohoo! Hotel Story. Speaking of like Capcom, if you think of Capcom, you think of like iconic characters, memorable IPs, and legacies. But it is kind of like the characters. You just picture them all in your head, and it's fun picturing them. Or Street Fighter, I'm picturing, but Capcom in general is like, that's a fun like universe. Hotel Story is almost like that. It's like it's just a fun universe. Like you gotta read it to believe it. You guys will know what I'm talking about when you read it, but there's a lot of fun kind of stuff. That one, it's gonna make a splash. I just know it. People are gonna dig it. Yeah, no backers yet today, so we're due for a backer. So if anyone feels like jumping in, let's do it. Okay, let me see about trying to maybe airbrush some lighting on her. I pick a lighter. How does airbrushing even work? Like that. Figuring this out as I go. We want one. Oops. Two. Can be a little. It's always kind of a test because if you go back to flats, you're like, oh, she looks hot. And then you do this, you're like, oh, she looks like fat, kind of. How do you fix that? That actually sort of did it. Cool. Come in here and clean up just a little bit of this business right here. Up in here. I can actually even try some bounce light of the hair. That'd be crazy. Oops. Brush. Like that. Probably be a little lighter. Faye says, back to can't wait. Thanks, Faye. How was it getting props from Miller? It was sweet, but I'm mildly desensitized because he gave me props a few years ago, and we've been in touch here and there since then. But that was a little more public, that he's like shouted me out a little bit or whatever. So that's fun. The little slightly boosted clout, I do appreciate it. Yeah. You'd be surprised, but I do think clout kind of helps. Whatever, like that's one way you're like trying to build that up a little bit, because it for some reason it sort of helps sell books or whatever. I think I could be wrong. What was I going to say? Oh, another interesting thing is, I don't know. I'm like self-conscious about people. I think it's a good thing though, but like sometimes people like last spring. I'll give you guys an example. So someone, I can't remember who, and it's awesome they did this, but it's just kind of funny. It's like things that you got to think about. I have to think about as I continue to try and kind of build my career or whatever. But I'm like, you could say I'm like a cult figure the way movies are in comics. Like my books are like cult classics or whatever. Like not that many people like me, but the ones who do really like me. You could say something like that would like sort of be accurate. So I got some fans and readers that are definitely in my corner, which is awesome. And then the one, someone to Ethan, I forget which one I was closing, but they're like, Ethan, you got to help. Are you going to help Narwhal close? Like, help Narwhal close. Why aren't you helping him? Something like that. And I was like, hey, don't bug Ethan on my account. I don't want him to think that my fans are annoying or something. But at the same time, I don't think he did. I think I was just overthinking it. But I was like sensitive to that. And I almost feel that way about Millar. I'm like, shit, did too many people tell Millar, like, Millar, thank you, for your interest in Narwhal. You really have to check out his work. And he's like, okay, maybe not. It's just too much. But anyway, I actually don't think that is the case. I think it is good. And so anyone who does want to be in my corner in that way, definitely feel free. I am okay with that. But it's just funny. It crossed my mind. I was like, I did. It's something I would have never thought about until it's like a thing where you got to reassess a little bit if your career grows a little bit. Then you're like, oh, I actually have to a little bit wonder, like, am I accidentally annoying older people, no, or like bigger creators or something? Yeah. Zed, Sean Murphy sounded a bit like those lefty news rags that use articles to plant ideas. Like suddenly articles are saying eating bugs will be a good thing after years of saying it's a conspiracy. Yeah, are you talking about his like statement or whatever about like how variant covers for collectors is like the new business model. Dude, I could roast that. I was thinking like, first off, I was like, oh, release a glory hole model where you drill a hole, glory hole edition, where you get the book, but I drill a hole right in the middle of it and you can turn it into a glory hole. Like he's selling all these editions, artist edition, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, it's for the collectors is what he says. I'm like, bro, this is like even worse than the situation before, where before this situation, which is still an issue, is where the life support that the industry on is being sustained purely by the collectors, deep pockets, the whales, uh, because of variant covers. And of course, his campaign has like 15 variant covers. And I wonder, I I was like, I almost would freaking take a principled stand and be like, I don't know, say no to a variant cover. But I don't know if I would actually do that. I'd probably draw it if he asked me to draw a Zorro cover. But I might be like, no, you already got 15. Like you should have like maybe two. But even that is like you got to two is probably fine. But yeah, if I read correctly what his statement was, it was like his idea is to just do more versions of the book and sell it to collectors. And that's how he's gonna, and he framed it like really funnily too, like marketing style. Like, I'm gonna give the people what they want. You know, what people are clamoring for is like more things to buy that are the exact same thing, but just slightly different because they're collectors. That's what they want. And I'm going to give it to them. This is the new business model, and I'm going to save comics with this business model. Bruh, please. If anything, that's going to hurt comics worse and probably just keep things the same. But because the thing that helps comics is they got to get cooler. And it doesn't make them cool if you do a 15 variant covers and a bunch of artist editions and shit. Although the one he did like one that's an 11/17 black and white version, and then there's one version that maybe is slightly different than that, but also kind of cool. So whatever. All right, we're trying to rock some like airbrush shit. Let me try the bounce light on this business right here. How do we do that? What should the bounce light be? Something crazy? Sure. Then you're like cutting back. Um, I don't know if this is to like soften that. How do we do this? I don't know. I ruined it. We're just like constantly. Okay. Then big bounce on this boy. Big bounce Bubba, we call her. Oh, I should have forgot my big bounce Bubba. Big bounce Bubba Hubba. Big bounce, Bubba Hubba. What about, can we try like some highlight? Is that crazy? I don't know about that. This is where I should look at reference because I don't get how it works exactly. But we'll try, we'll do. Sure. Bounce light on that, Bubba. Bubba Hubba. Bounce light on this, Bubba. What about rim light? Bounce light, rim light. What about Bubba Hubba? What about Bubba Hubba Wubba? Bubba Hubba Wubba Flubba? That might be it. About Bubba Hubba Wubba Flubba Dubba? Bubba Hubba Wubba Flubba Dubba Bubba? Tolerance, you sons of guns. Okay. We have bounce light on this Bubba Hubba Flubba. On this Bubba Hubba Flubba Dubba. Bubba Flubba. Slightly blue we're doing. So. Almost too much. Sure. Bubba Hubba Flubba Dubba. There. Like that. Bubba Flubba. And then the under boob. That can be kind of bright. Also getting, yeah, I don't know. She looks kind of 3D. What else can we do? She's not really done yet. It's hard to know when it was done. Narwhal is the Sally Field of CG. What is that in reference to? Because I was married to Robin Williams and he divorced me. Now I won't let him see the kids. So he dressed up as a woman. Is Sean Gordon Murphy Robin Williams? Okay. In that scenario, Pearson Bullet, Narwhal. Will we ever see a traditional superhero book from you? A la your own Cyberfrog or Isom? Good question. I kind of want to do one, but I don't have, I have so much to do and I don't have anything right in the pipeline. Although I have an interesting story about that is, oh, it's been a while and I can't remember the guy's name, but he was kind of a regular in CG and I'll find his name because it's in the document. But he was reaching out to me and he was like, you're really inspiring. Nosferatu really inspired me. I want to work with you. I'll do anything. I'll work for cheap. As I told him, I was like, don't. This is because I put out a tweet like, anyone want to sell me an old script? Like, and I was like, if it's only if it's collecting dust and gonna do nothing, I'll give you like maybe a couple $100 for it, which is like potentially a deal for me, a deal for you. But keep in mind, this is not a good deal for selling writing, especially if it's like good writing that you're proud of that you could get better for. So I even told him that, and he's like, because he wanted to write something from scratch, and I was like, "Are you sure? I don't even think you should really say yes to that." And he's like, "No, I don't care. I'll do it for fun. I just want to work with you." And I was like, "Okay." So we did a few back and forth, and he was writing the superhero script, and I honestly really liked it. It was a lot of fun. It was kind of new frontiery, like a little bit cheesy, but pretty badass, kind of high. And that was one of my notes too. Was like, make sure the stakes are like high stakes, life or death or whatever. And he went through a couple drafts. Then I randomly got an email, and it's like, hey, this is the dude's nephew. He passed away the other day. So he's like, I'm going through the emails. Did you owe him any money? Because you could just pay me and it'll go towards the funeral. And this is from his email, from the guy's email. So it's like his nephew on the account. And I was like, and as I say that, it's like I could see that people would think like, oh, is it a scam? Like it was pretty easy to tell it wasn't a scam. Like the guy actually passed away. And actually what's crazy is in the script is a reference that one of the things that one of the superheroes did kind of as an aside was he caught a bunch of corrupt scientists that were pushing a false vaccine on the population. And I was like, dude, based money. But then, yeah, he passed away. I'm like, dude, he might have gotten the vaccine. I always think that, I'm kind of paranoid, but so it's kind of sad that guy passed away. And I'll remember his name or I'll look it up and if I ever do that book, we'll do a full like little remembrance for him or whatever. But I kind of want to make it, and partly just for his memory, I guess, but not even because it's actually good. That's the thing. Like, it would be a little awkward if he died and I had to just make it for his memory. Like, I don't think I'd be that into that. But I kind of like it. So I've been thinking about that and when that might get going, but I'm not sure exactly when. Things need to get a little bit more liquidity, some more liquid. Economy's got to pick up just a little bit. Then things are off to the races. Though I got a bunch of backed up scripts and backed up projects, collaborations, but that's kind of an interesting one. But yeah, his script, it was pretty fun. I think it was just 48 pages, one shot too. But it's funny, 48 pages, one shot, that it completely introduces an entire superhero universe and kind of wraps it up all in 48 pages. So pretty like at that point it's like what is the word for that? Like it's not trying to be like whatever the next X-Men or anything. It's almost like a short story that's playing with the superhero idea, which is more of a thing that I would do anyway. I would want to do more like that than but Grand Prix is superhero-esque. It's not straight up superhero, but it's like I say Earthbound, a lot of it is like the story mode to a really good fighting game, like with the iconic characters, and they're all like a little different. And Earthbound, I say was like that. Grand Prix is even more like that. Danky says, "It was me. Sorry, wanted you to do good, but I'll zip it." Oh, are you saying it for the one? No, like I don't know. I don't think that's I don't think you should necessarily stop it. It was just an interesting thing about what crossed my mind. In that case too, I did DM Ethan real quick. I'm like, sorry if anyone's like bugging you too much about helping me, sorry about that. He's like, and he said like, he's like, I'll help you, without them bugging me. So he didn't like say they're not bugging me, but he didn't say they were either. But he's like, hey, I'll help you, man. Don't worry about it. I was like, thanks. And he's always been like that. I think there was what with Cerberus. There was one time I like didn't ask him for help because I sometimes I like am trying to like I am self conscious about like bugging him or leaning on him too much, and that almost backfired. Like I think he expected me to ask him, and when I didn't, he was I don't know he probably didn't care that much. But I got some comments from it was like the inverse of Danky. Some people were saying to me like, "What the hell are you doing? Why aren't you asking Ethan? Ask Ethan." I'm like, "Okay, fine." Android tablets suck. Shane is the new leader of CG now. That's funny. It's a cheap scam, not a business model. What's the cheap? Oh, now we're talking about Sean Gordon Murphy thing, I think, right? Yeah. Yeah. It's not as cool as he thinks it is. And it's funny because it's literally like he did present it. He once in a while does like own goals a little bit or whatever, but he presented it like it's innovative. And although I guess in his defense, the 11 by 17 artist edition, but it's like $200 or more, so it's so expensive. But that is kind of an interesting idea. Um, if you don't produce glory hole variants, dude, I should do a glory hole variant of one of my books, just to, and it could have like a picture of Sean Gordon Murphy with his mouth open. Just kidding. That's too much. Too much. I take it back. I disavow myself. I'm gonna end the stream. Shit. I gotta delete the stream now. No, just kidding. LMAO. I think different tiers is a good idea. Digital, normal, floppy, graphic novel, higher tier, artist edition, hardcover. Yeah. I mean it's not people who want to buy it can buy it, so it's not a scam. But it is just that it's like framed a little bit as like I've got that energy like taking steps to save the industry. Here's what we're gonna do. $200 artist editions of every book. What do you say? Who's with me? You know, everyone, it's good to, the other thing I'll say though is it's good to try as many things as possible because then you'll kind of just see what sticks or whatever. And Mark Miller was trying some stuff, and I like where his head's at. One of his ideas was, and what made me think of it, it's kind of the opposite. It was like $2 floppies for Nightclub, which I haven't read yet, but I definitely will. Um, so yeah, that could be pretty sweet. Um, when I'm looking at this Morgan art, you know what? So it's kind of looking better or whatever. It's not done yet. There's shit that I don't fully understand that people do to make it look like finished art where they and so maybe we'll try and do that. We'll try and add some like magical effects in the background, some floaties in the foreground, some like fireflies, maybe some glowing art. We'll change the whole, give it a mood lighting instead of right now she just has base color lighting. We might try and do some of that. We'll see how close we can get. Variant covers has gotten out of hand. He invented crowdfunding. It's the Murphy hybrid model. An arrogance and a willful ignorance. Yeah. Maybe that's what you could say. That actually, I felt that a little bit even with when the row about the PTP Zorro stuff, which eventually kind of ended up being not that big a deal because it's like Alex Toth had art like that already. But some of it, like the Sugar Skull, it was kind of similar. But what was interesting was, again, it's like the ignorance is like a little bit like, I don't know. It's like they don't even see us. This, I think, have I said this before that we're fourth dimensional beings and they're three-dimensional beings, so they can't see us. Like, I think that's a little bit what John Cena's thing is. You can't see me. My time is now. It's because our time is now and they can't see us. We're fourth dimensional because we're so much above them and better than them that they literally can't see us. But it's just kind of annoying because they think they're better than us, but they can't even see us. That's what it is. Narwhal, I'm making some hard-boiled eggs. Just thought you should know. Nice, holy hand grenade. Those are. Oh, did I tell you? I just chug them raw. 2 in the morning gives me a. I was gonna say dopamine spike. No, adrenaline rush. Richard Cahill. When the total number of variant copies outnumber the number of main cover, they're no longer special. Is the main cover even the main cover at that point? Yeah. Yeah, you ruined it. Narwhal and his chance. You like me. You really like me. That's a reference to the Academy Award acceptance from the Big Nose Lady, right? I kind of forget. If CG made a movie, it should remake Not Without My Daughter, but starring Narwhal instead of Sally Field. Bancroft style boobs. Yeah, these boobs, I just realized they're not spherical. They're like tubular. Tubular boobs. But tube like if you held a tube, like here's the tube, you held it right here. Like this, like a big bar. That's what it looks like, the lighting. He got. That nephew's lawyer will be up your ass. Yeah. If that was the case, then I definitely wouldn't do it. But it sounded like and even in the emails, I think the nephew was a little aware of that kind of stuff. He said like, we're square, it's yours. Thanks for the $200. Blah blah blah, something like that. If you bumped into someone important and had a miracle chance to pitch one of your books to be animated, which book would you choose? Or have you not written it yet? Good question. I kind of want to do Earthbound as a live action movie with puppets and Muppets or whatever. So not that one. Probably Hotel Story. And then I was like, maybe Grand Prix, but Grand Prix, Hotel Story and Grand Prix are like my two favorites right now. Cerberus would be really good animated too. So maybe that, and I have a few coming up that I'm excited about. There's one that Brendan Swan wrote that I love, and I might just do that. So I didn't even write it, but I'm like kind of like helping draw it right now. Sounds like a legal minefield. Maybe I'll email the nephew before, if I do start production, I'll just double check. I'll be like, hey, I'm good to like make this if I want. Because I remember the nephew even said that. He's like, I hope you can produce it to honor his memory or something like that. And I was like, yes, definitely. But there is all the emails, so I'm not too worried about it, guys. You guys are trying to scare me. About to install an emulator so I can play Earthbound. Nice. I kind of want to play some games on stream sometime, but I've been. Dude, you color in clip? Yep. What do you color in, Jimmy? Or do you color? You must color too, or are you working with a colorist? I got two hands. Why aren't you working on Dragon Range? He didn't invent the artist edition. Okay, well, yeah, shit. So innovative. We're doing it in the 90s. Yeah, calling it hybrid too. I think he was saying like we're going to crowdfund but also publish, via Diamond or whatever. That totally has been done for like a long ass time now too. And I'm calling it the Murphy model. And he said he's not doing interviews. And I checked his or he's just doing a few limited interviews. And the interviews I saw, they're like kind of scripted and yes many or whatever. And but that's maybe just a bias. I don't know. But I checked his YouTube channel. Yeah, his last video is 3 years ago. But I don't know if he has 15,000 subs. He has like kind of a lot of subs because he's pretty famous. But I'm like, dude, get that YouTube up again. But he's too good for that. Can you give me a good musical recommendation? You 3D hack fraud. Who said that? To shove CG in the face of those people. Yeah, that was part of the pitch. Yeah, I don't know about some of that. The variants to give gigs to kinds of people. Oh yeah, that's funny. That's like a little bit of a racket then, keeping work for favors and blah blah blah. Throwing little scraps and bones. Tubular bells. I'm fairly convinced Gamergate Comicsgate will only gain import with the passing of time. Perhaps not now, but at some point a documentary will be made. Yeah, I think I don't know. I go through phases of being super chip on my shoulder, annoyed and mad that we're getting frozen out, and then also just kind of embracing it and not caring. Literally opposites, and I go back and forth. Is anyone else like that? That's like, speaking of like writing, if you're writing characters, that happens, and then people will say that and they might be lying. That's the other thing. What we say out loud and what we actually feel. And a lot of times people don't even know what they feel, so they can't put it in the correct words. It's that those are the kind of concepts that could be fun to fit into a story if you could. I'll like write them down. I don't know. I don't have any specific things. I'll have specific stuff for interactivity. Like I'll be like, this story is about building paranoia. I got a way to do it. So we're going to set it up, achieve it, blah, blah, blah. But I'm still like learning and trying to navigate the ways that you can weave in the psychological concepts that can make things pretty relatable or authentic. But one of them is funny. It's that people can feel literal opposites and they go back and forth like a sine wave. One of those is with semi unrequited love is what I would call it, where you have, say, like a guy, say younger, because it would definitely be more common. This is like a teenager kind of thing. But if you have a crush on a girl and maybe they are actually like dating, so they're dudes super in love. It's, what would they call it? They call it what do they call it? Like the attachment style, being needy versus like avoidant or whatever. So say the guy's needy, and he's in love, and then the girl is avoidant, so she would be a bitch to him. Then he would like hate her, but then because he's in love, she would be nice to him after a while, and then he would forgive her immediately and fall right back in love. And that's real, like that's like how that shit works for whatever reason, unfortunately. But that you could put that in a story, but just being aware. But it's funny that literally the emotions that go through his head are opposites, and that's like an extreme thing like love, but it can kind of happen with um all sorts of stuff. But yeah, the one example I just gave was thinking about like how do you feel about like your place in the industry right now? The fact that you're frozen out, the fact that the mainstream is this separate thing and it's dying and they will not acknowledge you. How do you feel about that? And it's like, well, I don't like it and I wish they would acknowledge and whatever. Then the other one is screw them, I don't care. I'll do my own thing. It's kind of both, but you're kind of going back and forth. And I don't know what, like, if your mood changes and you're shifting or whatever. Usually I'm definitely more motivated if I'm in like a more of a positive state of mind. I'm like, F them, more abundant, I'm like, F them, who needs them, doing my own thing. Then if I'm kind of negative, I'm like, shit, I've been doing this for years and not quite getting it to where I want to be. Is it going to be like this? Am I going to be a homeless 60-year-old? What's going on? Where's this leading? How come they're fucking freezing us out? Whatever. Then it's like, fuck them. Who needs them? A sock puppet show. Foreign agent? That would be a live action movie eventually. Would be cool. I read that in the wrong tone. Foreign agent? No, well, you'll be fine. What games do you play? I just watch tons of games because I draw with them in the background. But shit. I want to play. So I do play games, but it's been a few years. But I don't want to get back into it and picking a few. But usually just play Super Nintendo, or Quake. I played a lot of Quake a few years ago, and then Super Nintendo. I don't even know. The one I played a lot was Tactics Ogre. But I think I beat it twice, which that was like 60 hours or so over the course of like 2 years. That was kind of the game I was playing because I'll only play. Even then, I'd only play like 1 hour a week or something. I'm still the Keanu Reeves model. I'm still catching up with the chat here. You can't control what the culture thinks. You have to just do your best and let it happen. Yeah, I think so. A little bit. I figure if Shiji keeps producing, eventually it'll become an undeniable fact. Shiji produces. At that point, I think a bunch of people will be surprised it's been around for years. Yeah. Infatuation. Yeah, maybe that's the word. How about a musical recommendation from you? Let's hear one. Well, when I work, I listen a lot to the video game soundtracks, and my favorite is Silent Hill 2, Akira Yamaoka. I'll listen to anything from him. And then I've also been dabbling, not really when I work, but even just for fun. Sometimes I will listen to Beatles albums with the Mario 64 sound font. That's like a funny, ridiculous thing, but it honestly sounds kind of cool. And then that two artists that I've actually listened to recently, because I don't really have favorites anymore. I just kind of go through little phases. I'll listen to people and almost too much until I get sick of them. But the only thing and then I'll never listen to them again or whatever. But the one I never got sick of is Akira Yamaoka. For some reason, that like really works for working and everything. I love it. But there's a guy named Alex G who does like kind of folky-ish type stuff. I don't know if folky is the right word, like indie guitar. Some of it's acoustic, but he's pretty great. And he's the type too where I think he's pretty where he does a lot of songs. What do they call that if you do a lot? But there's like two types of songwriters. There's songwriters who like can only write like a couple albums because it's based on their life, But then there's songwriters like Bob Dylan where they're like kind of embracing cliches and tropes, and they can actually write like a million songs because they're tapping into that. And that's more like Alex G. He's pretty sweet. And then who's the girl who had a baby with Elon Musk? Grimes. I've been into her and I like her. Smitten, just as Malin is with Irene. Yeah. We're all better off outside the mainstream. Did you catch Reenie's stream? No, I saw her. She streamed. She'll be on tonight with me in Creative Block. So stick around, catch that out. Check that out. I can see Foreign Agent as an animated feature, like a 40, 45-minute length, something with loose. Yeah, that would be cool. It wouldn't be that crazy to produce because it's minimalist, but it is hard with the language barrier. The new remasters are sweet, yeah. SNES is a great era. I replayed Mario World. Yeah, those three. It's funny, the best are like so good. They don't get old. Video game soundtracks. Yeah. What ones, Holy Hand Grenades, what ones do you listen to? I'll throw me some Rex. Some Rex. Oh, OST for No Man's Sky. As is the music from Ruiner. All right, I'm opening up a tab and searching that, so I'll have it ready. Ruiner OST. Oh, you know what? When I've been listening to a lot, so there's like 5 things that I named, but yeah, the most recent is like Alex G and Grimes, but they have lyrics, so I don't always listen to them, especially if I'm like writing it. I can't have lyrics on. But then I've been listening to the Armored Core 6 soundtrack, and I do love that one. Skyrim soundtrack, nice. I should check that out. Divinity 2. Yeah, it sounds like we all do that. Grimes makes good shit. She does. I like her. It's funny too. Everyone hates her now, like all the SJWs or whatever. Partly she like embraced AI. She's one of the first to do that. And I know even in our circles, people don't really like AI. But I'm like, that's like the sign of just an independent thinker. Like she does not care. A lot of people dropped her because of that. But I think it's cool. What's the Comicsgate kayfabe show? You mean like if there was one, which one would it be, or is there one? Because I'm not sure. I've been listening to 80s synth pop. Nice. All right. I got to make sure I have a meeting at 2. So I've been going a while here. I tell you what, I wonder if it's that freaking meditation shit, you guys. That's crazy if that's actually it. I would normally be absolutely drained and middle of the day, doldrums, very often take a little nap, literally every day. And I thought, and I'm actually knock on wood because I'm obviously not out of the woods or whatever, but I was thinking like maybe something's wrong with me. But yesterday and today have been pretty nice for like feeling good all day long. It's 3. No, I'm Pacific time, so it's 1 where I am. Let me see. Okay. This is how I structure the layers usually too. It's just everything built up. I think her shoulder. It should get just a little bit of. Oops. Sure. That looks fine. Okay, maybe we were gonna see if we can get some moody stuff going on. Hiya! Does that make you go hiya? La da 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 da, la da 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 da, la ya, ba 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 ba. Hiya, la ba da ba da. Dabadoo, dabadoo. Cool teen. $5. Nice, Morgan. Thanks. Thanks for the $5, cool teen. Here, I'll throw it up. Nice, Morgan. Hiya, labada bada 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 bada, hiya, habada bada 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 bada, habada bada 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 bada, hiya, labada bada 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 bada. All right. And then let's try this. Is this crazy? You guys reading this shit? Yeah, look at that. That's crazy. Droplet noise. Hiya. Habada bada 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 bada. Oh, look at that. Huh, the problem is it's too many. Here we go. I just touch it. So slight. Hiya. Labada bada 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 bada. Hiya. Labada bada 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 bada. Hiya. Labada bada 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 bada. That's what the sound is. Then we'll make these glow. How we do? Let's try like Control C, Control V. Let's try like, I don't know. Let's try outlining. Hiyo, labada bada bada bada. Ooh, look at that. I'll show you guys a trick. Duplicate layer. We'll darken this one. Then we'll drag it under, and then we'll put a mask on this one. Get my big airbrush. Go to, if I hit C, can you see on the screen right here? Switching between, that's transparent. That basically makes the brush an eraser. I've got in the mask so I can mask out and make these darker wherever I want. Oh, but I have the wrong brush. Go soft. Yeah, okay. Boom. Yeah, look at that. We can get like a little bit of hiya, labba dabba 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 da. Hiya, labba dabba 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 da. She looks 3D, but she still looks kind of flat. Like, I don't know. She doesn't look finished with the rendering. I'm not good enough at, like, she needs highlights, basically, I think. Be like, we can try one more layer. I mean, like, sort of like that. Like, what? Hiya. That kind of. Yabba dabba 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 da. Hiya. Yabba dabba 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 da. Hiya. Yabba dabba 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 da. Hiya. Yabba dabba 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 da. Try again here. Let me see. I don't know how these fools work. Hiya. Yabba dabba 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 da. Hiya. Yabba dabba 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 da. Oh, hiya, yabba dabba 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 da. What about that? Ooh, does that look cool? Hiya, hiya, yabba dabba 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 da. Hiya, yabba dabba 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 da. I don't know. We can do it with even without a mask. Just oops, knock that fool back. Hiya, yabba dabba 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 da. Hiya, yabba dabba 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 da. Oh, yabba dabba 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 da. Yeah, yabba dabba 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 da. Yabba dabba 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 da. Dabba da. Yeah, yabba dabba 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 da. Yabba dabba 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 da. I don't know. Strange. Yabba dabba 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 da. Yabba dabba 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 da. I don't know. What about sometimes Baups have like a little shiny little Alperino like that, you know what I'm saying? Should we put the Alperino right there, 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 there? Should we put the little Alperino right there? Is that too much? Is it too much for the little Alperino? I don't know. Moving it down. Where should the Bopperino go? Right there? 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 That kind of looks maybe the best, I guess. Oh. Yahaya. Yabba-dabba-dabba-dabba-da. Yahaya. Yabba-dabba-dabba-dabba-da. Yahaya. Yabba-dabba-dabba-dabba-da. Dabba-da-dabba-da-dabba-da. Let me try. If I get a little noosed. A little noosed? What do you guys feel about the noosed? What about the loop? But ever so slight little loopy doop. So there's a loop with a doop, scoopy poop. Oh, hiya. I think it's better without. Yeah, I like that one, I guess. Yabba dabba 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 da. Like this should have a highlight. Oh fuck, right here too. Some gum. That. Fair enough. Yahaya. Rabba dabba 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 da. Scuba ducha. Yahaya. Yabba dabba 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 da. Yahaya. Oh, this hand needs to be done. How do we do this? I don't even know. Yahaya. Yabba-dabba-dabba-dabba-da. That's sort of gonna work. Yahaya. Yabba-dabba-dabba-dabba-da. Should the hand be causing a shadow on the boop? Most likely. What layer am I even on here, dog? Okay. A hand causes shadow on the boop. A hand causes shadow on the boop. Scooby-Doop. Scooby-Doop. What's up with you, Scooby-Doop? A hand causes shadow on the boop. Maybe a little bit of like some weird ass gong. A hand causes shadow on the boop. I don't know. And sometimes lips are like slightly different colored. Is there a way to do that? About this like dun, 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 dun. I don't know. It looks wonk. Pretty wonk. What the flip? What's this motherfucker? Does Morrigan have dead lips? What's the reference? I feel like the reference is anime. She doesn't have lips. Whoa. Let's try it. Pink? I mean, I don't know. And then another one of these gosh dang highlights. We're getting too, I don't even know what people do. Where does it go if you do one? I don't even know. Son of the god. Whatever. Actually, I think something is. It's like more like that. Whatever, we're making some progress. There's something we can do. Yeah. Ooh, yeah, look at that. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Labba-dabba-dabba-dabba-da. Let's try an overlayer. Is that crazy? What I can do is gonna make her. Then we'll make that overlay. Oh, she's so moonlit all of a sudden. Is it really that simple? Yabba-dabba-dabba-dabba-da. Oh yeah, and the other thing we can do is, I think maybe I will. It's always a crazy moment of truth. I'll duplicate this. So I have my flats, but then these I'll just flatten. So that's everything. Then I'll duplicate this. Let me try one with like, yeah, like that. I'll throw that here, put a mask on that. My big airbrush. See, then I can add a little bit of like, dark down here, light up here, kind of thing. A little dark back here. And brightness back up here. And just merge that down. Try again, duplicate. I'll try one brighter and see how that looks. Same thing, drag it below, go to this one, mask, airbrush. Yeah. On her chest. Yeah. La-da. Sure, why not? Merge down, boom. Add the blue, boom. Is this too bright though? Can darken it. Yaha, labba-dabba-dabba-dabba-da. Labba-dabba-dabba-dabba-da. Yaha. And then, see, it kind of looks cool just like that though. Maybe this can be a little more. Try it like, this can get masked too, actually. We can try that, like, Yahoo! Labba-dabba-dabba-dabba-da. Well, yeah, I don't know. That kind of looks cool with her pretty dang warm. Then we might do another. Try delete. Bring this one back. Ooh, that looks kind of cool too, with just the flats. Without nothing, the bloobs. I don't know. I mean, nothing looks good. I don't want to ruin it by. But I was going to do one more thing anyway. It's going to get a little bit of the bloobs in the front. We'll try it with droplet. Drag this above. You create selection. Try it this way. Select, then we go expand by 6. Select blur by 10. And we'll go a blue saturated. Fill. Did that do anything? Blur it some more. View, filter. Select, blur, try 20. That's definitely getting a little more. Yo-ho! Let's merge it down. Let's do that trick where we go make some darker. Drag beneath, mask, get my big airbrush out, hit C, and then we can pull. Oh shit, make sure we're on this brush. And pull some lighting. Sure. I think I don't want that one right there. Yo-ho! Slabba-dabba-dabba-dabba-da. One more thing we can do is we can duplicate again. Oops. Duplicate. Let's blur this actual full layer. Blur quite a bit. So that's what it looks like. Same thing. Boom, boom. And then we can do it again, kind of. Where we want blurries here. Just towards the bottom. Same thing. This one. Oh god. The fuck. What the frick? Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, here we go. Oh, a little sharper up there. Merge layer. Yo-ho! Flabba-dabba-dabba-dabba-da. Yo-ho! Scooby-dooby-dooby-dooby-doo. Yo-ho! Flabba-dabba-dabba-dabba-da. A Scooby-Flooby-Dooby-Dooby-Dooby. I could sort of say it's done here. I don't know what we're doing. Pull this back. Flatten some layers, maybe. That honestly looks kind of nice. See, that's funny. Like, that almost looks better. Which is like, damn, all that work for nothing. What about if we just do that? Like, make things, I mean, that's kind of sweet. What if we go like duplicate? Let's duplicate both. We'll merge down. Drag this, hide. Contrast. A little bit. Edit. Saturation. Yo-ho! Flubba-dubba-dubba-dubba. Scooby-dooby-dooby-dooby-doo. Scooby-Dooby-Dooby-Dooby-Doo. That killed a lot, some of the stuff on her green hair. See, this is always a problem when it just, you could spend hours messing with them, looking at the alternatives and be like, which one do I like more? Did I? So that was the Snow White version. That's more tanned, legit version. What does this if I just go in it? Correction. Yaha, flabada bada bada bada. Graphic 3D. I think 3D might be the way to go because it does read as like pretty moody. So maybe I will delete this. We'll commit to the bit. Overlay. Does that change? It actually some. Okay. Can go visible new layer. That's the whole thing. I mean, it's all pretty okay. Edit, try. Oh, I kind of like that actually. Yo-ho, flabba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Scooby-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. Animate snow falling. That would be cool. I could, maybe. Actually, there'd be a sort of an easy-ish way to do that in Blender with simulations. I might try that tomorrow. Maybe we'll try and do that. I almost got to go, though. I got this meeting coming up. Shit. Well, I'll post this later on Twitter. You guys can help me retweet it. I might mess with it some more, but it looks okay. I don't know. Yo-ho! Flabba-dabba-dabba-dabba-da. Scooby-dooby-dooby-dooby-doo. Scooby-dooby-banooby. I have the silliest name in the galaxy. You guys know what that's from? Ciao. Shit. Cool. I'm just checking out the chat just for a second. Yeah, back hotel story, everyone. We're due for a backer. It's been over 12 hours, I think. We're due. Who hasn't backed it yet? Who wants to get in on this business right here? All right, see you guys later. Peace out.